Welcome to Elementary. I hope you're having a fabulous Monday wherever you are. And I hope you managed to keep warm today. I know it was blustery out there. Well, I have a couple of topics I want to talk about today. And topic number one is going to be breaking up with clutter. Topic number two is going to be living debt-free, the road to financial freedom. And the last thing I'm going to touch on is what's new with real estate, because by far, I think that's what most people are interested in. I don't know. So I think. So they tell me. Either way, I'm glad you made it here, and I'm glad you decided to join us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jacqueline Watson, and I'm your host. I have no guest today. But I must say, breaking up with clutter is a great topic for the start of the year. And I also wanted to remind some of you that were, I don't know if you joined, but I did a class on this a while back, a webinar style class. No, I don't want to call it a class. It wasn't really a class. It was a webinar. It was friendly and a webinar for you to take away some key topics. And I had a guest speaker at that one, actually a professional that I use in, I don't use, but she does a lot of work with some of my clients, the ones who really need it. And it's absolutely amazing. This girl is absolutely amazing. She can move the dial. I mean, that's what she does. She's a declutter queen. So, when it comes down to clutter, it's not only because you're moving or you decided to downsize or you decided to get to a different place. I think clutter is important for a few things. Clutter is important for peace of mind. Clutter is important for your own space, your own, home. It saves you a lot of time, really, if everything has a place and you're not overcrowded and you're not hanging on to stuff that you don't really need, then everything just returns to that place that you keep it. Now, I will say that, people say, I don't know, there's some sayings about clutter. I don't know. We all have clutter, okay? We all have clutter. And so the truth of the matter is clutter can also be mental, right? It's not just a physical thing that you're hanging on to, but it could occupy some space in your mental space. And, for most of us, that's crowded already. But having said that, let's go room by room, guide to decluttering. So rule number one is what we tell people is start small. Start with a junk drawer. You have 15 minutes. Go through, get rid of, move on. And then the next morning, maybe 15 minutes spent on another drawer. And I know you're not going to move mountains with this, but during the day, they say if you do this Pomodoro technique or something, and you're working and you set your clock for 50 minutes and then you need to get out for 10 minutes or whatever they talk about. You can set your clock. You can do your own technique. What I would say is take 10 minutes, declutter a drawer. Like you can do that in 10 minutes, really. You're just going through stuff and getting rid of it. No one's asking you to put everything in place and be like perfect. You're just getting rid of all the junk you don't need. And so that is one way. Number two is you can tackle closets. Now, this by far is a bigger thing that's going to take a little bit more time. And, one of the questions that you would ask is, does it spark joy? And this is a big one. We all hang on to clothes that don't fit, that you don't feel confident in, but you hang on to them for some reason. And, I think one of the items is you have to really kind of look at it as a couple of things. Does it spark joy? And if I haven't worn it in a year, what are the odds that I'm going to wear it? Now, we also have like a technique where, when you're dealing with your clothes, take it all out so you can take a look at how much clothes you have. But a lot of us, we just hang on to clothes that don't fit because we think, hey, if I hang on to them, they're going to fit. Now, I lost a lot of weight, and so technically, I should have just hung on to the clothes. But really, why not donate it to someone else who can make better use of it, right? And sometimes the things we hold on to is also things that are not don't fit, but they've been used quite a bit. Those are the ones we hang on to the most. Like, we're just going to get a little more life or a little more usage out of it. But what I normally say to people is you can donate it, or you can even sell it on Marketplace and, then bring you back some cash so you can just replenish those items that you got rid of. And the next big ticket item is the kitchen. And a lot of times we say, keep what you use, right? How many of us have like 5 can openers? Or you don't even drink wine, but you have 3 bottle openers. And really, do you need that many? So those are the things to just streamline, especially if you don't have enough space for them. Number 4. This by far I feel are the hardest part when I'm working with some of my clients is the sentimental items. These are the ones that they hang on to even more because they truly hold on to those memories and they don't want to lose. And no one's telling you to give them away. You just have to find a different way of managing those items, right? Managing and what do you keep? I mean, you can't keep everything, especially if you're downsizing. So one of the things I tell my clients is if you're going from like a big 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom condo, you need to look at 50% plus some in order, because more than likely a condo might be a little bit smaller bedrooms, the whole 9 yards, but more than 50% needs to go. And I had this one client, we had 50% of their home decluttered. And I kind of told them, be prepared because this is really not even the tip of the iceberg. Like, you need to get rid of a little bit more. And of course, they told me straight up, you know what? They were like, hey, Jacqueline, you know what? We should have listened to you. You were right when you told us about decluttering, because truly, we needed to get rid of more items, because if not, you're just hanging on to like things like, for example, you're just hanging on to like maybe you're renting a locker. Maybe you have one locker and then you decide you want to rent another locker and you're just kind of paying for a locker. But a lot of times people realize is when they have these items in a locker, they hardly use it. And that says a lot, right? Because a lot of times in a house, we don't even realize that these items are just sitting there collecting dust, and they're just filling a space. And if it was gone tomorrow, you probably wouldn't even notice it. You won't even miss it. So that's my little 2 cents on breaking up with clutter, is what I call it. So like I mentioned, I had a masterclass, not a masterclass, like a webinar style for people. And if you ever want to be part of that webinar again, feel free to DM me and I'll put you on the list when I do a next session, which we're hoping to do a session in the spring. So if it's something that you're interested in, DM me and I'll be happy to put together another session. Of course, the sessions are free of charge, and so feel free to do that. Now, the next topic that I want to talk about is living debt-free. And I'm not a financial planner or any of that stuff, but I'm just going to, turn your mind to some reality. As we've been through the last little while, our space, our world has been like none other. And we're all feeling the burn, feeling the pinch, and in order to live the life that you've dreamed of, you don't really want to create any additional stress if you don't have to, right? I know when you're a young family, it's harder because you have kids and you have cars and you have car payments and you have a home, and it's never ending. And you feel like, oh my goodness, is this ever going to lift? But a lot of times as you get older into a different stage of your life, and a lot of the clients I deal with are also in a stage where they're considering like, hey, I should be looking at my retirement, or not, they're not ready yet, but they should be turning their minds towards it. You've had maybe the house for a little while and you're trying to figure out how you can just get rid of stuff, rid of debts, lower your payments, or just get it in control. And the whole point of understanding, so like, the first thing I tell people is understand your debt, right? Make an inventory of what you have. Write down all of your credit card loans, car loans, if you have student loans, mortgages, everything. Keep a whole detailed notes on how much you have, what you have. Include the total amounts like interest owed, minimum payments, due dates. Now, there is a rule of thumb. I say to people, if you cannot pay that bill at the end of the month, you shouldn't be putting it on the credit card. The credit card is the worst place that it can go. But not everyone is as fortunate. Now, sometimes I look at a credit card as, I think you should use it, because one thing I tell people is, look, if you have a credit card, don't use a debit card, because if you have some sort of fraud, that's your money. The bank takes forever to return your money. But if you have fraud on your credit card, that's their money. And they work twice as hard to figure out and get to the bottom of it. So while I'm telling you not to use your credit card, I'm also encouraging you to use it. But it also builds your credit, and it also kind of gets, that whole thing into place where you buy something and then you pay it off, and you buy something and you pay it off. Yeah, the key word is pay it off, not hold a balance at the end of the month. Now, I understand if you've had like a major issue and you had to put an expense on and things happen, but I'm not encouraging unnecessary spending. My goodness, I couldn't even say the word. But, the full picture may intimidate you, but there's two ways to deal with it. You get to see the full picture, and then you get to put together a plan of action, because it's very realistic. You get to see this picture of how much you owe, and you're not kind of sitting and burying your head in the sand trying to figure out. Now, understanding the cost of debt. Now, this is also very important. What sort of interest are you paying? If you flip to the back of your credit card, it'll tell you at this rate, you will take so long to pay the bill. And people should read that, because that is kind of frightful. It's like those ads on the cigarette packages, right? People I know still smoke even after they see those horrible teeth and the whole 9 yards. But really, you should kind of read it so you understand your what is involved. Now, when it comes down to paying off debt, like for example, credit card debt, right? There are a couple of different ways. Like there's a couple of different ways you can pay out these debt. One is the snowball method. So this one starts by your smallest payments, like your smallest amounts that you owe, and trying to like eliminate those first, so that you're kind of like just lessening how many places you owe, and it makes you feel like you've accomplished something. And so you pay out the smallest amounts and you move to the next one. So that way you feel like, okay, one is out, and then you've moved on to the next one, and the next one is out. And it builds momentum, so it gets you motivated. The second one is like an avalanche method. And this one is more like you're paying off. You're actually focusing on paying the highest interest. And this saves you a bit more money, because you're actually concentrating on the ones that are costing you the most money and trying to pay those ones off before you can pay anything else. And then there is the consolidated debt method, where you can actually take some of your higher interest and consolidate them and try and get a lower interest loan so that you can pay off, and then you just have a smaller amount so you can stop the bleeding. And the other thing too is try to put together like some small milestones that you can say, well, if I pay off so much, I'd be able to get this one paid off by this day. And by having those little things put into place, it just helps you kind of get momentum and move forward, right? And then while you're doing all of that, you need to also kind of look at budgeting. And budgeting for success is so important. Now more than ever, we've seen how things have just skyrocketed in a flash, right? Within months, we saw interest rates balloon up into like who knows what, and people were not prepared for it. And then now we're seeing them dropping, but the rates are, unless you have a variable, you're really not seeing that dent on the rate, right? But also how much we are paying for like other goods and services. Everything has gone up in price, right? Like everything has gone up in price. So tracking your spending is really, really good. Just kind of calculating everything you spend on a daily basis, it will really kind of get you to cut back and reallocate funds. A lot of times we just spend mindlessly. Honestly, like if you just take a look at how many times you tap your way into the day or the month, you'll realize maybe there are things that you could cut back on. And if you think twice about it, maybe you'll think, hey, do I really need this today? Maybe you will, maybe you do, but do you really need it? Also, assigning every dollar a purpose, right? Like they have that, I don't know, different rules where you can put like 30%, 40% towards living must-haves, another 40 towards discretionary spending, and then the other 20% are savings. And I can tell you, most people these days are not prioritizing savings. And if you were to have, there was actually a study that came out the other day saying most Canadians are $250 away from being penniless or whatever, having a big, I don't know where they got their numbers from, but it is a reality for most people. That could be probably true. So, and then the other thing is cutting unnecessary spending. And the one thing to actually take a look at is subscriptions. Subscriptions are huge. Most of us don't even know what we've subscribed to, or most of us don't even know what a recurring payment is coming out of our credit cards. I had one item that I paid for a while back, and I remember canceling it. I remember very clearly I asked them to cancel it. They responded, and then this year, and it's a good thing I have an alert on my phone, on my accounts. So this year something went out and it said I had just paid and it was US dollars, so I don't know, 300 and something US dollars. And I'm like, what? And then I messaged them, and then they were like, oh, when did you cancel? And I'm like, well, I messaged you on this day and you messaged me back on this day. And so I guess they had no choice but to give me back the money. But it's funny because when they take out the money from my credit card, ever notice how sometimes when they take out the funds and when they put back the funds, there's always $1 or $2 missing because the rate obviously changed the day they put it back. And you're not getting the same amount back. I don't think you get extra though when the rate changes the other way. The other thing to do is, cut unnecessary expenses, do a bit of a subscription thing, take a look at what you're paying, and not just that, maybe apps on your phone as well. So what in the iCloud store that you have, eat out less, shop with intention. If you do a little bit of meal planning, you may not buy as many, vegetables that are probably going to go bad at the end of the week. Maybe you're going to streamline your budget to cook with the vegetables that you buy, as opposed to buying all these different vegetables and then kind of having to clear out some of your veggies from the fridge or whatever without using them. And then once you clear out your debt, not death, debt, then you should aim for having at least 6 months, 3 to 6 months of living expenses in your bank account, right? So whether it's mortgages, like things that you have to have, I would say 6 months, but even if you had 3 months, at least it's a start, right? Number 4 is a mindset shifts for financial freedom. And this is important to shift from, like, to stop chasing the latest gadgets and trends, right? I know a lot of us, like, we get so like jazzed by these things, and everything is made for us to one click buy, one click shop, save your card for next time. And those are little things that you can do, is not save your card. So you'd have to go out and not memorize your card, but you'd have to go get your card. And in the time that you go get your card, maybe you'll decide, hey, I probably don't want it anyways. I don't need it. And, also kind of having a goal. So I don't know if some of you work the same way. The way my mind works is that I have like my eyes on a prize, and whatever that prize is, whatever it is, I'm out to get it. And so a lot of times that when you set those priorities, right, then you it's easier to give up other little things. So even if your prize is a vacation with you and your family, that's okay. We all need to budget that. I think a vacation should be part of that discretionary amount that you put aside, because listen, we were not put on earth to just, work and pay bills, right? We need to have these things in life. So it's all about that balance. So if you like to drink and you like to smoke, or you like to drink and you like to go on vacations, maybe you can give up the drinking and save that drinking money for vacation. I don't know, whatever floats your boat, really. I mean, if you really like to drink, then maybe you can just drink. Who cares? Do whatever makes you happy. And then at the tail end of it, it's all about practicing gratitude, right? Sometimes I think we get so focused on the stuff we don't have that we forget to actually be thankful for all the stuff we do have, and how grateful we should be for what we have. And I think sometimes when you take a step back, you realize that you're not as as dire as you think you are. You have a pretty good life. And also we talk about lifestyle inflation, and when your income grows, people tend to naturally say, oh, I'm making so much money, I can go out and spend all this extra money on this. But try to avoid that lifestyle inflation just because you're earning more money. Find a way to live the way you were, as opposed to just blowing money just because you're making more, right? And number 5 is to actually make sure that you can pay off debt easier and faster. So some of the things you can do is side hustles. I mean, everybody has a side hustle these days. And we live in a world where it's so out there. Like these days, people will actually support a small business as opposed to a big box store, a no brand as opposed to a brand. Also, like, putting that side hustle income to either paying off debts or like saving it for something that you're planning to do. Selling unused items, like, so if you have like too much stuff in your house, maybe you can get rid of some stuff and then use that to pay off some of your debts as well. And if you're employed, then obviously the second best thing is to negotiate a better salary or apply for a new job. So number 6, as we get to the end of our list of debts, staying debt-free for life. And I know this one is, they talk about adopting a cash-only lifestyle. I mean, I don't love it. I think there's something to be said about your credit card and paying it off, but instead of having a cash-only lifestyle, have a, hey, this is my budget. This is how much I will tap on my credit card, and that's it. And, mindfully paying attention to how much you've spent so far for the month. And Also thinking about building wealth through savings and investments. These days, there are ways to get into investing. Like, you don't have to do it yourself. You can have someone do it for you. But, gone are the days where you're actually using these firms that are spending more of your money on fees. There are other cheaper options out there. And, doing regular financial check-ins, just checking in to see where you are, see how things are doing, and also, making sure you have enough money, insurance, all of those things in place, and all those bills are paid, just in case you ever have a financial setback. So those are some of my tips for living debt-free. And on to the next. So having said that, what's going on in real estate? And when I talk about real estate, it's pretty much like Toronto, Greater Toronto area, a little bit, further out, but not like crazy anywhere else in the world. But real estate, I mean, look, it's a really odd market. That's all I can say. It's a really, really weird market. But we have another announcement that's coming out in a couple of days on Wednesday. There will be an announcement, probably another drop is what people are anticipating. I don't know if it's going to be a lot, but it's a drop is a drop, and hopefully, I know the Bank of Canada wants to stir up spending, and the HST holiday has actually created a bit of that. People have been eating out more because there's no HST, but when Wednesday shows up, it's also Lunar New Year, so hopefully we'll have good news. But look, we have some things in play that may come out. It's odd because our world is so connected to all of this stuff, and people have been sitting on the fence and haven't decided whether they should buy or not. And I get people asking me this question, hey, do you think I should buy now? Do you think the market's going to drop? And it's really a very hard question to answer unless you have all of the goods. I mean, if you're looking to sell your house, there's a whole big analysis that needs to happen. And just asking the question and someone saying, yeah, you should sell. No, it may not be the best time for you to sell, but it also may be the best time for you with your situation to sell. And so you have to kind of understand where you are, what your goals are, and what you're hoping to achieve. When it comes down to the condo market is doing its own thing. It's flooded, I must say. But this is where pricing strategy comes into place. This is where your staging comes into place. And this is where you realistically have to look at stuff. But there are also people who are losing their shirts, and they've made a bad choice when it comes down because, the market was doing so well. So they thought they could not lose, and now they can barely manage. Now, I know a few people who have the same situation where they can't manage and they are bleeding money, and